So rare is it that a game comes along and blows away all expectations to a wary fanbase. Having come to expect the next game to be a worn-out husk of the former glory it once was, Resident Evil 7 had shown Capcom that there is still very much a market for the survival horror genre, with Capcom returning Resident Evil to its roots and leveling with the fans on what they really wanted from the Resident Evil franchise. But did we truly get the survival horror experience we've been waiting for? Let's find out. You take the helm of either rookie officer Leon Kennedy or Claire Redfield, a motorcycle enthusiast and college student. Both characters offer plenty of differentiating elements to their scenarios, but it may not seem that way initially, as a clear majority of the first half of their stories may only differ by secret items found in lockers and safes. But this isn't something that takes away from the experience. Both Leon and Claire have their own arsenal of weapons to find and choose from. While Leon may get the shotgun and the lightning hawk, Claire receives the grenade launcher and the submachine gun, with each weapon offering a large variety of upgrades as the game progresses. Something that stood out to me that was quite refreshing was the different dialogue provided by the game's first relevant human character you meet, Marvin Brannick, the Raccoon Police Department's lieutenant. Playing as Leon, he'll carry himself with a stern and commanding attitude, while with Claire, he'll be soft-spoken and much more caring. These scenarios with Lieutenant Brannick all played out the same way, but helped making a second playthrough that less of a drag. That goes for the entirety of both characters, as the locations don't vary all too much, but their stories show far more of a divergence. With the protagonist being accompanied by another pivotal character, these characters even getting their own time in the hands of the player, albeit for a moment. The story of Resident Evil 2 is what you come to expect from a Resident Evil title, and doesn't deter itself much from the treaded formula. Not that it's a bad thing by any stretch, as I'm certain it maintains a level of faithfulness to the original and doesn't have to tell some sort of epic tale to get your character from location to location. As the game progresses, both characters have their own reason for being in the depths of Raccoon City. Leon being the stalwart defender he is, and Claire being the nurturing caregiver adds an important level of depth to their character. Also provides a filling backstory to the history of the outbreak of the T-virus and how it occurred. Most of these details are being provided through notes, memos, logs, and even VHS tapes, which made the world feel much more alive and didn't suffer through the daunting task of exhausting exposition. From the moment Resident Evil 2 is started up, it's hard not to notice how beautiful this game looks. With the level of detail in the pits of the skin, to the light spilling into the police station from the ceiling windows, or the anatomical disfigurement presented quite liberally through the game, it does exactly what it set out to do, making even the most hardened of horror fans twinge a bit at the macabre and grotesque spectacle on display. Along with the graphics, the sound design is on an equal if not more impressive level, something that a horror game has to absolutely nail to truly get its audience into the level of paranoia it wishes to build. Hearing your footsteps echo through the hall, you'll occasionally stop just to make sure those footsteps are your own. Guiding yourself to the maze-like station, you'll familiarize yourself with the occupants and know when something else begins to roam the halls of the police station, as the enemies have very distinct sounds. Not just from their cries, but from the way they move. Whether it be from the shuffling of a zombie's feet or the hissing shriek of a licker, even the music is enough to make your hair stand up on the back of your neck. The soundtrack is certainly one to behold, and its effective score is beautiful, haunting, and frightening all at the same time, making proper use of it during intense situations as well as being conservative with it, leaving you to soak up the atmosphere and not bombard the player with unnecessary instrumentation, perhaps having the best score in any horror game I've ever played. Resident Evil 2 offers something for all variety of players. The first choice for difficulty is Assistant, which provides players with health regeneration, weaker enemies, and even aim assistance. I heavily discourage anyone from playing this difficulty at any point, as it truly diminishes from the experience that Resident Evil 2 provides as a survival horror. Even for beginners of the genre, or even video games, I recommend playing on Standard difficulty, which is the difficulty that I have finished both my playthroughs on. The experience was challenging and refreshing, as is what I expect from the genre. On Standard difficulty, I was never frustrated at the game for my mistakes, as most elements in the game are clear and present and can be avoided or taken care of with the appropriate planning. Some surprise elements are scattered throughout the game, but nothing you can't handle as long as you're practicing proper item management and have a steady aim. Hardcore is certainly not something that would attract someone new to the series unless you're looking for a tough as nails challenge right out of the gate. The enemies are even more dangerous, as just a single bite from a zombie will put your health into the danger condition. Although the strategy remains the same as it does on Standard, just run if you can't, then go for the legs or try to stagger them with a headshot. You'll require ink ribbons to save as well, items that come in pairs and are consumed upon saving, which also means that there's no autosave, so those that are looking for something a bit tougher than Standard, give Hardcore a shot. The most obvious shift from the gameplay of Resident Evil 2 from its original counterpart is the camera angle. Ditching its fixed camera angle from the original and the first-person view of its predecessor, Resident Evil 2 goes for a more familiar aspect of the series from recent years, an over-the-shoulder camera that Resident Evil has become quite well known for since its fourth mainline installment. Of course, it has evolved quite a bit since then, as the movement has become much more fluid, feeling a bit more akin to Resident Evil Revelations 2 than Resident Evil 6, with the thankful removal of diving, quick shots, and the ability to falcon punch a zombie to the moon. The gunplay is very tight and responsive, and initially landing a headshot feels good. The careful aiming pays off, but due to the zombies being capable of taking an absurd number of headshots, the reward quickly drains when the zombies you put nearly an entire magazine into its head yet continues to lurch itself upward. You realize that fighting everything is a pointless endeavor and it's better just to stagger your erratic attacker and run past them rather than put them down for good. Know that running is a viable strategy, and that's something you learn about an hour or so in when you meet one of the game's antagonists, a boogeyman of sorts that will stalk you throughout the game. Majority of the weapons certainly feel effective and are fun to use, but this comes at a cost. Although its damage output is great, I wouldn't recommend spending the precious ammo you do have for either the shotgun or the lightning hawk on a meager zombie, as you'll certainly need it as the game does have you face down progressively harder enemies or when you're being surrounded and might need it in a pinch. Your characters feel heavy yet very responsive. Only once was I met with a moment that caused minor irritation due to the weight of the character. One of the finer details that always stood out to me with Resident Evil 2 was the wonderful touch of personality given to each of the heroes during gameplay, either from Leon muttering a sigh of annoyance from a zombie down the hall or Claire shouting expletives while trying to take one down. They will even exclaim their frustration when they've put several bullets into one of them and they won't stay down. It's a very nice addition and gives them a refreshing sense of character, which provides an even greater sense of presentation. Trekking through the hallways for the first time feels uneasy. The game has a looming and discomforting atmosphere and tension-fueled scares. Resident Evil 2 is exactly what you're looking for as a horror fan, proper atmosphere, also maintaining a high level of replayability with unlocks such as costumes, concept art, and 3D models that are accompanied by animations, as well as scenarios to play. In summary, Resident Evil 2 was an amazing experience that paced itself so wonderfully that I wasn't ready for either story to be over, and I'm excited to return to 100% completed. It's certainly a must-play for anyone with the slightest interest in horror. I was met with delight and joy along with a sense of fear and unease, something I fully embraced. This gets a heavy recommendation for me, and I implore all Resident Evil fans not to miss out on this. This is how a remake should be done and will certainly stand the test of time. Resident Evil 2 is a masterpiece.